Hello, and welcome to the Argyle HR Leadership Forum. My name is Brittany Sullivan with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. I have some important information to share with you, and then we will turn the floor over to our esteemed opening keynote speaker. First, we would like to take a moment to thank today's sponsors, Checker and Lyra. Our sponsors are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which includes complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. We also welcome you to stay socially connected during today's event. For those of you who are active on social media, please use the hashtag Argyle Digital and follow us at Argyle Exec Forum. Also be sure to follow Argyle on LinkedIn for special announcements. Finally, and most importantly, we would love to hear from you. So during each session, we encourage you to submit your questions and comments in the Q&A box on your screen. Following each presentation, we have set aside time for our speakers to weigh in on your questions. Thank you again for joining us. Let's get started. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Stacy Lewis, CEO and Chief Influencer at HR Interrupted. We are excited to have Stacy with us for her opening keynote titled Understanding and Enhancing Employee Productivity and Performance. Welcome, Stacy, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Brittany. I am so excited to be here. Good morning to everyone who's joining us. I'm Stacy Lewis. I'm the CEO, founder, and chief influencer, chief disruptor for HR Interrupted. We're going to take the next 20 minutes or so and talk about understanding and enhancing employee productivity. And I guarantee you, it's not probably what you expected, but we're going to walk away with some amazing thoughts. So let's just jump into this real quick. A little bit about HR Interrupted. It's a nationally recognized HR consultancy firm, and I specialize in collaborating with organizations and leaders that have the grit to be unapologetic about interrupting and disrupting old school or historical workplace ideologies and practices that are just not relevant for today's workplace. But more importantly, working with organizations that want to reimagine the people, business, and culture, aka HR experience. So that's a little bit about HR Interrupted, and my hashtag is Disruptors Wanted. All right. So for our conversation today, at the end of our session, my goal is for you to have a greater awareness around the following: defining and redefining productivity and its impact on today's workforce, understanding HR's role in creating a culture that promotes productivity, performance, and purpose, and then identifying some impactful strategies to promote true workplace productivity and performance from the top. And that's going to be key when we're talking about enhancing and understanding employee performance. So I know whenever you sign up for a webinar or a conversation of sort, data and facts always, matter. So for our conversation, I threw in some data about employee performance. And when you look at employee productivity, we understand that allows the organization to look at how their performance and achieves the following. When you look at it, is how it describes, the increased quality of work, right? So when you're looking at employees' productivity, it helps the organization look at their increases quality of work, the employee development, how employees are navigating the organization. It gives the organization clear insights into how the employee is performing, what are they doing, what keeps them going. It gives us some insight as to identifying targets and metrics for trends. And it also gives us, as organization leader, accounts for any errors that are being made and how we can pivot around those. So that's kind of some high-level data about facts and data as you're looking at employee productivity. What is the importance of productivity in the workplace? What are the benefits of increased employee productivity? And then how do you increase employees' productivity as a leader? And I was so honored when, Argyle asked me to speak on this conversation, because there is a lot these days that are conversations that are going on around how employees are navigating and moving through the organization, especially coming off of COVID with new ways to look at work, whether there's a lot of individuals who are now working primarily remotely. You have new era leaders coming into the organization and things that are important to them. So there's this whole new conversation about employee productivity. So let's jump into these three questions quickly. So the why. Why do we talk about employee productivity, or why are we concerned about understanding it and enhancing it? Because we know that productivity improves customer service, and we definitely want our customers to, feel valued, because that's how we make money. We get better collaboration from our employees when they know that we are invested in their productivity, in their performance, in their purpose, in the passion that they bring to the workforce. We get increased engagement from the employees, right? It's no longer an us versus them, but we get engagement when we're focused on that. Employees feel less stressed. They feel that the environment is conducive enough for them to be able to give their very best. And the data and the facts show that there's some higher retention rates in the organization when the organization makes a commitment to focus on productivity, performance, and I also add purpose on there. And so when you're focused on that, what does that look like? What are the actions that you take? And I always use the why, the what, and the who, because everything that we do starts with awareness. Every single thing that we do starts with awareness. It would be easy as HR practitioners, as HR leaders, as CHROs, as HR influencers to just jump to the how. We want our employees to work. We want our employees to work. Well, I can definitely tell you, COVID changed a lot of things. Pre-COVID, one could make the argument, but there was a lot of emphasis on the employer. Employee, come to work, do your job, you get paid. Great. The pendulum is now switched, has now shifted, where now there's more conversation about the relationship, because work is a relationship. It is a relationship. And so now there's more conversation about the work relationship. So you have to start with the awareness. Why is this important? Why is it important that our employees know that we are invested in them so that they can have high productivity, that they can perform at the highest level, and that we are honoring their purpose? So how do we do that? Or what is the what? The what is giving regular feedback, creating action plans, offering some type of incentive, whether it's a monetary incentive, whether you're very creative with some of your total reward packages, whether it's matching tasks with skills, right? And really being creative in that space as you're creating your position descriptions and your job descriptions, and maybe moving away from that historical ideologies where, not to offend anybody out there, but you had to have a degree and X amount of years of experience, but really looking at what is the skill? What is the skill that is required to do that job? And then match that skill, right? Look for that within the organization, within your people, and match the skills. And the minimum qualifications may not align with the skills. This is all we're gearing up in this conversation about understanding and enhancing employee productivity. The matching the skills is key, is really key. My colleagues out there, because the days have come where we cannot ignore potential. We can't ignore how you identify that, but more importantly, we have to be able to ensure that we have the appropriate people doing the appropriate job at the appropriate time. And then providing adequate resources. I do a lot of work in this space. I've been in human resources for 38 years. And that's the one thing that I consistently hear now that I'm on this side and working and doing some impactful change of the business people culture space. And I'm hearing employees say, I don't have the resources. And let me just give a little PSA. And resources are not always more staff. That's typically been to go to. I need more staff. I need more staff. I need more staff. That is not always the adequate resource, especially if you've done a really good job in creating action plans, offering incentives, and matching tasks with skills. Because you may, let's say you have a department where there is a staffing deficit, but you've also been in contact with some of your other leaders in the organization, and they have identified someone in the organization that would like to have, let's say, a stretch assignment. Are they interested in learning more about the organization? And their project base right now may not be as heavy. And so instead of hiring another individual, right, there's an adequate resource with already within the organization where you don't have to invest dollars in hiring and all and everything that comes with that, but that you can build some bench strength within your organization. So that's really key about providing those adequate resources for your employees. So what does that all mean? Real quick on our definition of productivity, having the quality or power of producing, especially in abundance, right? Effective bringing out and yielding results and benefits from your employees, and then yielding are devoted to the satisfaction or wants or creation of a utility. Really, what is the quality? What are you producing? Why do you come to work? They used to say, how many widgets have you done? But it's beyond widget counting. It is bringing out the best results and benefits for profits from your employees. What is performance? All these definitions came from Webster: the execution of an action, the fulfillment of a claim, the manner of reacting to a stimuli, and the ability to perform. And that seems like a simplistic definition, but the word ability highlights that, because unless the work environment, unless the workspace is conducive, the employees may not have the ability to perform. And there was a time in the people, business, and culture, AKA space, that our leaders, in collaboration with HR, would define an employee's ability not to perform as something else. We would, you know, attribute that to another behavior when really resources weren't there, right? Or the skills weren't there. The skills didn't match the task. And because there wasn't an inherent and intentional dedication to look at that, we just dismissed it. So that ability to perform is key. And then what is purpose? Something set up as an object or end to attain, an action in course of execution. Purpose is intentionality in everything that employees are doing in the workplace around productivity, around performance. There has to be an intentionality around that drives their purpose. And the intentionality is also supported by the workplace. And when I'm talking about the workplace leaders, I'm not just talking about the physical brick and mortar, you know that, but is the organization psychologically safe? Do our employees ask to weigh in at appropriate levels, right? Because you can't have employees weigh in at every level, because now you set a precedence that employees feel that they can talk at all levels, right? Are you really aligning your business purposes with your output? Are you being creative in the spaces where it doesn't look like what we used to do? All of that. Is there an intentionality about your equity and inclusion strategies? Is there an intentionality around accessibility? All of that drives performance, productivity, and purpose within the workplace. So now what I really wanted to get to, now we lay that foundation. What is human resources role in enhancing and understanding employees' productivity, performance, and purpose. Here we go. It all starts with you. I'll lay that whole entire foundation to this conversation right now. It all starts with you. And I'm not just saying you as CHROs, you as HR practitioners, influencers, leaders. I'm talking about you as an employee. Honor the fact that HR, you are also an employee. You are an employee. And with that being said, redirect if you really want to understand employee performance and productivity, look within. Like, let's start within. So many times in the HR space, there is a us versus them inherent mentality. What do you mean by that when you say that, Stacy? I'm going to encourage everyone who's joining right now to redirect your organization's language. For example, if HR does an employee engagement survey and you report out to your leadership, you would typically get a question that sounds like this. Well, what do the employees want? What are they looking for, right? I'm going to encourage you to say time out. It is not what do the employees want. From your CEO to the top person in your organization on down, minus your board, they are employees. And when you change the conversation about who employees are, it looks different, right? So it's not what do the employees want, but it's what do we want? Because everybody in the organization is an employee. And because of that, everybody matters, right? So really redirect that. Honor the fact that from an HR space, people in business and culture, you are employee. And then number two, change the language from us versus them to your CEO asking about benefits. The language should be, what benefits do we need as employees, to implement for us as a workplace? Really work on that language. And then again, you're understanding and you're enhancing employee performance, productivity, and purpose. Reimagine what we have done. Really reimagine and look at that. Very quick, I had a situation in my last job where I had a leader come to me and there was a promotional opportunity and she had small children and she wanted to pursue it. And she came and she said, Stacey, I'm interested in this role, but I have my children. And this job requires a lot of travel and it requires a lot of time out the home. And so she was asking me for advice. And I said, before I give you advice, let me hold off. Let me give me a couple of weeks. And I went to our organization and I said, we are talking a lot about succession planning. We're talking about building bench strength from inside the organization. One of the things that we can look at is in this particular position, maybe this person doesn't have to travel. This is the highest level in the team. If we're building some succession planning, maybe they go to the weightier meetings. So this was a governmental affair position. So maybe they go to meet with the Congress. They go to DC. But some of our local initiatives, let's build a bench strength. Oh no, Stacey, we haven't done this. The position needs to, travel. And my question was why? Why? If we are saying that we are genuinely caring about our employees, their performance and their purposes, we decide what the skills are. Make a long story short, after a lot of conversation, a lot of realizing that no is yes to another question and getting to that question, we changed that position description. The person had an opportunity to compete for the position. They were selected and came back to me and said, thank you. It was a simple conversation. So reimagine what we have done to really enhance and promote productivity, and that starts with you. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Everybody who is joining this morning, listen to me well. Boundaries are important and they should be set within the organization, and they start with you. Remember, again, you are an employee. HR, we're the synergy. When we do HR right, we are the synergy of the organization. We're the heart and soul. We drive culture, right? We drive culture. We are the table. And so those boundaries are important because how we as employees implement boundaries is the example for the organization. So if you set those boundaries and you don't answer emails at 1 o'clock in the morning, if that's not your time, then be okay with that, right? Because you're setting a precedence, or you're setting the culture for the workplace. And remember, you too are an employee. And then don't let performative productivity interfere with purposeful performance, meaning when you as employee having conversation with other leaders, employees, and organization, don't let these are the numbers, this is what we need to do, this is what we have, this is the project, really interfere with purposeful performance, meaning some thinking outside of the box performance, some productivity that we want to do, excuse me, we haven't done because we have all these other things that have to get done, right? Don't let that happen. And then, most importantly, out of everything I've said today, because we have about 10 more minutes, protect the most important relationship you have, or there's two, and protect both of them. The first one is the most important relationship that you have, and that's the relationship that you have with yourself, and protect the relationship that you have with time. Understanding and enhancing employee productivity. It starts with you. When you do all these things, you will see a shift in the culture of the organization on how we look at employees, how we look at employee productivity, performance, and purpose. So, with that being said, very high level, very quick, just wanted to leave some words to inspire you today and tell you thank you for all that you do in the people, business, and culture space. And right now, I will turn it over to Brittany for any questions, any comments, any Stacy, I don't know about that. Anything you want to talk about. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stacy, for such an insightful presentation. As a reminder, our audience members can still enter their questions, and we'll go ahead and review a few that came through.
Thank you.
This one question, Stacy asks, who do you feel leads this change, or where would you suggest we start when addressing productivity?
Well, if you're going to go in alignment with what I shared today, I believe that first thing, everybody's HR. So let me put that on the floor. Now, I understand that there is an HR, human resources, people and culture department where we are tasked because we understand laws, etc. But everyone is HR. So to answer the question, when you're talking about productivity in the way that I've addressed it, HR really needs to lead that conversation. And the conversation is different than what we've heard in the past about metrics and data and number. Now, let me be clear. In order for us to be heard in HR, we know that we have to know the business. So I'm not going to ever say not know the business. But what I am saying is bring the business acumen into the humanity piece when you start talking about productivity, and really get to the root of what that is. And then talk to other employees. See, I was even going to say your workforce. You are the workforce. What does productivity mean to you? And I guarantee you, you will get a very perspective that will help the organization. But I think the conversation is driven by the individuals in the organization who should be driving culture. And it's to start with HR. I don't believe that, oh my God, if the top doesn't support it, not when it comes to productivity, because productivity drives bottom line. So I think it's a holistic conversation. And that is a really good question. HR, do what we do and do it well. Start the conversation from the business perspective and the human perspective to lead the charge.
Excellent. Thank you, Stacy. This next question, are employees less motivated these days? And if so, why? And how can leaders address this, especially in the new year?
I'm going to say, I think employees are, I don't know if I want to say less motivated. I think there's so much going on in the workplace after, COVID, before COVID, and I'll be very honest, I've been in the HR space. We really just made people feel happy that they should have a job. And when COVID came, we were able to do things that we said no, we couldn't do in a matter of 3 weeks. And so employees, excuse me, found their voice. And now, if we're not careful, we're moving a lot on the side of employees having a lot of say. And as I said earlier, work is a relationship. And so I'm of the opinion, and the individuals that I have the honor to work in a collaborative relationship, and that's through consulting work, is I'm really inspiring them to say, let's move towards the middle. And we have to find and meet people where they are. What do we need? What do employees need? And you may or may not be able to meet that need, but be transparent and be honest about it and have the conversation. Um, and see what happens. And then there's a lot going on in the world. High inflation, people trying to buy homes, people, can't feed their families, just a whirlwind of things that are impacting work. And so the answer to that is yes, people are motivated. What leaders should do is talk to their employees. Good morning, please, and thank you goes a long way. And I know it sounds simplistic, and I am not trying to be offensive, but I talk to a lot of individuals. I do a lot of coaching, which I call collaboration. And I'm consistently hearing, Stacy, my leader will tell me everything that I am not doing right. But those, hey, good morning. Hey, you really did a good job with that. I appreciate your effort. Those are few and far between. So let's talk with our employees, right? Let's be honest. And both ways, even if they're not performing or the productivity is not where it is, have the conversation. Let's not wait till it's a promotional opportunity time or it's something that's going to benefit them. And then we say, hey, Stacy, you're not performing. Talk. Just like if you're in a natural relationship with a person, you spend a lot of time talking, getting to know them, getting to know their needs, getting to know how you collaborate, getting to know what's going to make the two of you jive. Do the same thing in the workplace.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stacy. Looks like we have time for at least a couple more questions.
Mhm.
This next attendee, they say that in the news lately, there are a lot of commentators whose beliefs on DEI have soured. Many are now saying that DEI programs are a poison, leading to decreased productivity and job satisfaction and should be eliminated. Is this becoming a popular philosophy?
To whoever wrote the question, great question, because that is the work that I do. It is in that I'm hearing from a lot of my clients that I'm collaborating them with in equity and inclusion strategies. And for the person who asked the question, I tend to not use DEI because when an organization has true and impactful equity, we're meeting people where they are, inclusion, who's present, strategies, you will diversity, the representation is automatically derivative. With that being said, yes, there is a groundswelling of people saying, you know what, I don't know what this is going to look like, and I'm going to share with you what I'm telling my clients. The news, those who are in power can make policies and practice to erode the structure of DEI. But when an organization commits to embracing and looking at everything through an equity and inclusion lens, because equity impacts everyone. Equity just means meeting the needs of individuals. And I know for some individuals, equity seems unfair because equity is not fair. I may have a different need that Brittany has. Brittany may have a different need than Lindsay has. But the key thing about that is that Brittany, Lindsay, and Stacy's needs are being met. And so when organizations position it that way, have policies, procedures, and practices from an equity and inclusion perspective, and it becomes the fabric of their organization. So with the same fervence that they look at the bottom line and that they practice or they implement their equity inclusion strategies, they won't kill the spirit. So the structure may be eroded, but the spirit is not eroded. And so that's how I'm encouraging the individuals that I'm working with is always honor the spirit of the work. Meet your employees' needs. That impacts everybody within the organization. Great question. Very good questions. These questions are amazing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Stacey. That actually is all the time we have for questions, but we will be sure to follow up with you with any that we did not get to. So
Yes,
thank you again for such an excellent keynote presentation.
you're
I
welcome.
also want to thank everyone who joined us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be made available on demand following the event. Thank you again, Stacey.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for everything that you do. Thank you.